The top assassins in the galaxy just turned down the biggest contract in history. The reason? They discovered they were being played. When Eugene James, the infamous human assassin known across 100 star systems, received the encrypted message from Emir, the notorious Wagner crime lord, he knew something was off. The astronomical sum Emir offered for a single hit was the first red flag. The vague, need-to-know target details set off alarm bells. But what really bugged Eugene was the pressure, the oily threats beneath the polite words that told him refusal wasn't an option. In his prime, Eugene would have told Emir exactly where to shove it. But he wasn't a young gun anymore. This business wore you down after a few decades. So he did his homework first, calling in favors, greasing palms, chasing whispers. What he uncovered made his blood run cold. The Wagner were into shady shit that would make a Zygorian pimp blush, illegal weapons, slave trafficking, attacking defenseless worlds. With their advanced tech and deep coffers, they were poised to roll over the galaxy if nothing stopped them. And the poor bastard Eugene was supposed to whack? Turns out they were the one being trying to stop them. This mysterious figure was on a crusade to expose the Wagner, working to rally the galaxy against them. Suddenly the picture snapped into focus for Eugene. Emir wasn't just hiring an assassin. He was buying Eugene's soul, using him to wipe out the only serious threat to Wagner domination. For the first time in his long, blood-soaked career, Eugene hesitated. He had a code, twisted as it may be. But this felt wrong. But the Wagner didn't take no for an answer. Refusal, they made clear, was a death sentence. Eugene soon had Wagner agents on his tail across a dozen systems, the pressure mounting with each close call. Desperate and out of options, Eugene reached out to the only people he could trust, his fellow slayers, the most lethal beings in the galaxy. In a tense, secret conclave, the truth came out. They were all in the same bind, blackmailed by Emir to take out anyone who could stop the Wagner's galactic conquest. Eugene could see it in their eyes. The simmering fury, the grim realization. These were hard, brutal beings, but even they had lines they wouldn't cross. Emir wanted them to slaughter the only hope for trillions of souls. If they took his blood money, the Wagner would win. The galaxy would fall. Eugene had spent his life dealing death for pay. Now, for the first time, he would kill for a higher cause, for justice, for freedom. He stood up and drew his pistol, looking to each face in the room. No more. This is where we fight back. I don't know about you, sorry lot, but I'm done being Ymir's bitch. Time to show that smug slug why you don't fuck with the top assassins in the galaxy. The room erupted into cheers and roars of approval as Eugene finished his rousing call to arms. These were the galaxy's deadliest killers, lone wolves and stone-cold professionals. But in that moment, they were united by a common purpose, to take down Emir and the Wagner syndicate once and for all. As the assassins gathered around a hollow table, Eugene laid out his audacious plan. We make that scumbag Emir think we're accepting his contract. Arrange a meet to hash out the details. But when that smug slug shows up expecting to buy our souls, we hit him hard from every angle. No more dancing to his tune. The others chimed in, sharing scraps of intel they'd gathered on Emir's operations. Kolta, a Zenlarian hacker, had unearthed schematics of Emir's private space station. Razorclaw, a Kragmori berserker, had a cache of experimental weapons perfect for breaching the station's defenses. Infiltration specialist Phantom had already identified weak points in the station's security net. Eugene absorbed it all, his mind racing as he devised a multi-pronged assault strategy. Each assassin would have a crucial role to play, their unique talents applied like a surgical scalpel. This wouldn't be a blunt smash-and-grab job, but an elegant and lethal ballet. For weeks, they drilled relentlessly, honing their tactics and teamwork. No expense was spared as they acquired bleeding-edge armor, sentry drones, and cybernetic combat enhancements from the galaxy's most notorious arms dealers. They would hit Emir fast, hard, and completely without warning. When the day arrived, Eugene stepped onto Emir's lavish space station with ice in his veins. He was walking into the jaws of the beast, a ruthless kingpin guarded by a small army of elite mercenaries. But he had a few surprises of his own in store. Hidden in shadowed alcoves and maintenance ducts, the rest of the team waited, coiled and ready to strike. As Eugene was ushered into Emir's opulent receiving lounge, he silently marked the positions of the crime lord's bodyguards. The plan was unfolding just as they'd rehearsed. "Eugene, I knew you'd come around," Emir crowed, all oily charm as he poured himself a snifter of thousand-year Altarian brandy. "Wise decision. The Wagner always get what we want, one way or another." Eugene plastered on a cold smile, playing his role as he settled into a plush chair. "Enough small talk, Emir. You're buying the best, and that don't come cheap or easy. Before I sign on, I need to know exactly who I'm killing and why." As Emir droned on, preening about the fearsome might of the Wagner cartel, Eugene's fingers worked nimbly behind his back, assembling the compact laser pistol concealed at his waist. The others would be moving into their final positions now, syncing their chronometers, making last equipment checks. The anticipation was electric. "And so you see, my deadly friend, it is futile to resist the supremacy of the Wagner," Emir gloated, taking a long pull of brandy. "Why struggle against the inevitable when you can profit from it?" Eugene looked up and met Emir's gaze, his own eyes flat and pitiless. He felt the tiny vibration in his wrist that meant the team was ready. It was time. "Hey, Emir," Eugene said pleasantly. "I got one thing to say before we get down to business." Emir raised a curious eyebrow. "Oh, and what's that?" Eugene stood in one fluid motion, his pistol leaping into his hand. "Surprise, motherfucker!" He fired, the laser beam slicing through Emir's snifter in a blinding flash. An instant later, all hell broke loose. The assassins burst from their hiding spots, unleashing a hurricane of precisely aimed shots and hurled grenades. Emir's bodyguards scattered like ninepins, some cut down before they could even draw their weapons. Razorclaw charged in like a demon, twin mono-edged blades out and hungry for blood. Colta overrode the room's security systems, turning the automated defenses against their masters. Phantom flickered in and out of sight, leaving a trail of slit throats and ruptured hearts. But Eugene only had eyes for Emir. The crime lord had reacted with breathtaking speed, triggering a shimmering personal energy shield. Eugene poured shots against it, searching for a weakness as searing return fire filled the air. They dueled back and forth across the room, the technological might of Emir's defenses pitted against Eugene's superhumanly honed combat instincts. It was like clashing with a force of nature, Emir's shield turning aside even the most powerful blasts. All around them, the lounge disintegrated into a storm of whirling shrapnel and flesh-searing plasma bolts. The other assassins fought like tigers, ripping into wave after wave of Wagner reinforcements. But Eugene barely registered the carnage. His whole universe had shrunk to him and Emir, two apex predators locked in a duel to the death. Then he saw it. A minute flicker in the energy barrier, the shield overloading at last under his relentless assault. Eugene tensed to lunge in for the kill. And Emir slapped a control on his gauntlet, his lips peeling back in a feral grin. "Dead man's switch, human," the crime lord spat. "Harm me and this whole station goes up like a supernova." Warning klaxons began to wail as the self-destruct sequence kicked in. The deck shuddered under Eugene's feet as the reactors spun up towards catastrophic overload. He had seconds, maybe less. The assassins were already falling back, scrambling to reach the evac pods before the station tore itself apart. But for Eugene, there was no retreat. Only the mission. With a primal roar, he threw himself at Emir, pistol blazing. He felt the searing kiss of the disintegrating shield, the scorching heat of the first explosions. The universe dissolved into light and agony. And then darkness took him. The station shuddered and buckled as explosions tore through its superstructure. Colta, Razorclaw, and Phantom fought their way through collapsing corridors, dodging falling debris and bursts of escaping atmosphere. "Where's Eugene?" Phantom shouted over the din. Razorclaw scanned the chaos. lost sight of him near Ymir's chambers. "We can't wait," Kolta yelled, her hacking interface showing critical reactor instability. "This place is going to blow." With reluctance etched on their faces, they piled into the last functioning escape pod. As it jettisoned away from the dying station, they watched in grim silence, fearing the worst for their comrade. Days later, huddled in a dingy safe house on some backwater moon, a ping on Kolta's encrypted comm drew startled gasps. "I'll be damned," Razorclaw rumbled. "The old bastard made it out." Eugene's terse message confirmed he'd survived, having slipped away in a stealth pod. But Ymir had escaped too. Their mission, for all its daring, had failed. Over the next weeks, as they pieced together intel from their network of contacts, a chilling picture emerged. Ymir had enacted something called Contingency Omega, an emergency protocol granting him near-limitless authority within the Wagner hierarchy. "Look at this," Phantom said, pulling up a holodisplay. It showed Wagner death squads swarming across star systems, leaving devastation in their wake. "He's not holding back anymore." Eugene's face was grim on the holocall. "We rattled him. Now he's out for blood." For months, they stayed on the move. Eugene's team used every trick in their considerable arsenal: sensor scramblers, identity forgeries, even good old-fashioned disguises. But Ymir's forces were relentless, always one step behind. It couldn't last forever. The attack came during a supply run in the Outer Rim. Wagner's ships dropped out of hyperspace, guns blazing. Eugene's modified freighter took heavy damage before they could jump away. "We're venting atmosphere!" Kolta shouted as alarms blared. "Hull breach in 3 sectors!" "Hyperdrive's failing," Phantom added. "We need to set down now." They limped to the nearest habitable world, a desolate moon on the edge of civilized space. As they made planetfall, secondary explosions ripped through the ship. Eugene dragged himself from the wreckage, head spinning. The others were nowhere in sight. Injured and alone, he activated his emergency beacon, praying it would reach the right ears. Hours later, a familiar gravelly voice crackled over his comm. "You look like shit, old friend." "Zoran," Eugene wheezed. "Good to hear your voice. I need intel fast." "I've got something big," the information broker replied, "but you're not going to like it." Zoran's next words hit Eugene like a punch to the gut. The target Ymir wanted eliminated, the one who could rally opposition against the Wagner, was Admiral Garin of the Coalition Defense Force. "Garin?" Eugene sputtered. "The war hero?" "The very same," Zoran confirmed. "He's been working behind the scenes, trying to unite systems against Ymir. If he falls..." Eugene's mind raced. If Garin died, the fragile alliance he'd built would crumble. Ymir and the Wagner would steamroll through defenseless worlds. A ping on his threat detection system jolted Eugene from his thoughts. Wagner ships were entering the system. Time was running out. "Zoran," Eugene said, his voice hard. "I need resources. Now." "You're in luck," the broker replied. "I've got a cache nearby, sending coordinates." Eugene stood, wincing at his injuries. He had to reach that cache, had to find a way off this rock. Admiral Garin's life, and the fate of countless systems, depended on it. Eugene's fingers flew over the comm panel, encoding the urgent message to Admiral Garin. Every second counted. He triple-checked the encryption, then hit send. The transmission vanished into the void, carrying with it the fate of countless worlds. Aboard the CDF flagship Indomitable, a junior officer's eyes widened. "Sir, priority message from..." "It can't be." Admiral Garin strode to the console. "Let's hear it." The message crackled to life, Eugene's voice tense. "Garin, it's you they're after. Ymir wants you dead. The Wagner are coming." Garin's face hardened. He barked orders. "Break orbit, set course for Rally Point Epsilon, and get me the 5th Fleet, now." Klaxons blared as the massive ship surged to life. Crew scrambled to battle stations. Within minutes, the Indomitable vanished into hyperspace, leaving only a ripple in the fabric of space-time. Back on the desolate moon, Eugene had no time to celebrate. The sky lit up with searing plasma bolts, the outpost's flimsy structures vaporized under the barrage. Shit! Eugene sprinted for cover as superheated debris rained down. A transmission crackled in his ear. Zoran's gravelly voice. Northwest quadrant. Old freighter. It'll fly. Barely. Eugene ran, lungs burning. He vaulted a pile of twisted metal, skidding to a stop before a battered ship. The engines coughed to life as he strapped in. He punched it. The freighter lurched skyward, trailing smoke. Wagner ships swarmed like angry hornets. Plasma bolts sizzled past the cockpit. Eugene's hands danced over the controls. The freighter barrel-rolled, narrowly avoiding a spread of missiles. He skimmed the cratered surface, weaving between towering rock formations. A lucky shot clipped the wing. Alarms screamed. Eugene gritted his teeth, wrestling the controls as the freighter fought to stay airborne. They burst through the atmosphere in a ball of fire. Eugene's eyes darted from sensors to view screen. A massive cargo hauler loomed ahead. He gunned the engines arcing around the lumbering ship. G-forces crushed him into his seat as he used the hauler's mass to slingshot towards the system's fringe. The Wagner ships overshot, their superior speed working against them. Eugene dove into the asteroid belt, killing power to all non-essential systems. For days he drifted, silent, watchful. Wagner drones swarmed through the belt like metal locusts. Several passed within meters of his ship, but the freighter's cold hull blended with the lifeless rock. On the fourth day, alarms shrieked. Eugene's eyes snapped open as his ship rocked under heavy fire. A swarm of drones had finally spotted him. He jinked and juked, but it was futile. Defensive guns spat streams of plasma, swatting drones from the sky. But there were too many. Explosion after explosion tore through the freighter. Atmosphere vented from multiple breaches. Eugene stumbled to the escape pod, strapping in as the ship disintegrated around him. The pod ejected, tumbling end over end. Eugene's stomach lurched. Through the viewport, he watched his ship vanish in a silent fireball. A massive shadow fell over the pod. Eugene's blood ran cold as he recognized the distinctive profile of a Wagner dreadnought. A tractor beam seized the pod. As it was drawn inexorably towards the hangar bay, a familiar hologram flickered to life. Emir's sneer filled the tiny cabin. Did you really think you could outrun me, Eugene? Your pathetic warning changes nothing. Garen will die, and the galaxy will burn. The pod passed through the atmospheric barrier. Eugene's fate hung by a thread as the dreadnought's cavernous maw swallowed him whole. The escape pod's hatch groaned as Wagner guards wrenched it open. Eugene barely had time to blink before armored hands seized him, dragging him out onto the cold metal deck. His muscles screamed in protest as they hauled him upright, snapping heavy manacles around his wrists. "Move!" a guard growled, shoving him forward with the butt of a rifle. Eugene stumbled through the cavernous hangar bay, surrounded by the hum of machinery and the acrid scent of ozone. Towering war machines loomed on all sides, their weapons primed for slaughter. They marched him to a raised dais, where Emir stood waiting. The crime lord's cybernetic eye glowed an angry red, his organic one narrowed in contempt. "Eugene," Emir purred, his voice dripping with false warmth. "How good of you to join us." Eugene said nothing, meeting Emir's gaze with steely silence. Emir circled him slowly, like a predator savoring its prey. "I have a proposition for you, human. One last chance to prove your worth." He gestured, and a holodisplay flickered to life, showing stacks of gleaming credits. "Kill Admiral Garen for me. Do this, and you'll have wealth beyond your wildest dreams." Eugene's lip curled in disgust. "Go to hell." Emir's face contorted with rage. He lashed out, backhanding Eugene with crushing force. Blood filled Eugene's mouth as he stumbled. "Very well," Emir snarled. "You've made your choice." What followed was agony beyond imagining. Eugene lost track of time as Emir's torturers went to work. They used devices that set every nerve ending ablaze, drugs that twisted his perceptions into nightmarish unreality. Through it all, Eugene clung to one thought. He would not break. After an eternity of pain, Eugene found himself unceremoniously dumped into a dark pit. The stench of unwashed bodies and raw sewage assaulted his nostrils. As his eyes adjusted to the gloom, he saw the other inmates, a collection of the galaxy's worst monsters in humanoid form. A hulking brute with filed teeth lunged at him. Eugene, despite his wounds, managed to sidestep and use the creature's momentum to slam it into a wall. The others watched, assessing. "Not bad for fresh meat," rasped a voice from the shadows. A scarred human emerged, eyeing Eugene appraisingly. "Name's Corvo. You look like you might actually last a day down here." Eugene nodded warily. "Eugene, any way out of this hellhole?" Corvo barked a harsh laugh. "Sure, in a body bag." Days blurred together in a haze of violence and survival. Eugene forged alliances where he could, watching his back constantly. He learned the rhythms of the prison, the corrupt guards, the factions among the inmates. Then came the day the lights flickered and died. Alarms blared in the distance. "Mining accident," Corvo whispered urgently. "Power grid's fucked. It's now or never." Eugene didn't hesitate. He rallied those he'd come to trust, leading them through pitch-black corridors. They fought their way past panicked guards, Eugene's tactical mind guiding them toward the control center. The final push was brutal. Eugene took a glancing hit from a plasma bolt, the smell of his own seared flesh filling his nostrils. But they made it, barricading themselves inside the nerve center of the prison. "Cover me," Eugene ordered, his fingers flying over unfamiliar controls. Sweat stung his eyes as he raced to override the fail-safes. A deafening roar shook the compound. Wagner reinforcements had arrived, their weaponry tearing through the prison's defenses. "We're through!" Eugene shouted as blast doors ground open. "Go, go, go!" They ran, ducking and weaving as the world exploded around them. Eugene felt the searing heat of near misses, saw comrades cut down in sprays of blood and gore. As they reached the surface, a dying inmate pressed a data chip into Eugene's hand. "Coalition. Coordinates," he gasped before going limp. Eugene pocketed the chip, scanning the horizon. A battered freighter sat half-hidden behind a low ridge. It was their only chance. He sprinted for the ship, lungs burning as Wagner fire rained down. The few survivors piled in behind him as he fired up the engines. They lifted off in a hail of laser fire, streaking for the stars. Eugene allowed himself one ragged breath before plotting a course. The real fight was just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.